Today we're going to begin with the topic of attention because your attention is one of the most valuable resources you have. It's also one of the things that was taken from you in the very beginning. And it's the first thing that you're going to want to reclaim if you want to start taking your power back. Now I want you to think back to when you were born, a young child. Your attention was wide open. We're curious about everything, the lights, the sounds, our hands. We live kind of completely just in the moment. And that's the thing about our attention. It's a little like fertile soil. And whatever's planted is what's going to grow. But as children, unfortunately, we don't have the tools we need to decide which seeds get planted and which seeds don't. So this is where our attention is what I call stolen, and it begins to be guided and redirected by the people around us and later on the systems in our society around us. It's also something I refer to as domestication. Little by little, without realizing it, we stop really looking inward. We lose that sense of curiosity and we start looking outward to see who it is that we're supposed to be in the world. And for most of us, this starts at home. Our families do the best that they can. They tell us what's good, what's bad, what's acceptable, what it means to be a boy, what it means to be a girl. Maybe we're praised for being quiet, or maybe you were scolded for being, too energetic and loud. You were told to be seen and not heard. But very quickly you learned where to direct your focus if you wanted love or approval, and where not to look if you wanted to avoid being in trouble. And as we grow, this continues, with our communities, our teachers, our classmates, our neighbors. We're told that we're smart. We're told that we're attractive. We're told we're weird or we're goofy. And eventually, the larger culture kind of piles onto this. And we really feel this in today's society where media, advertising, and the constant stream of images on social media and stories that tell us like what success is and what beauty is, and it begins to develop, what our self-worth should look like. And bit by bit, our attention gets trained away from our inner sense of self, our inner truth, and toward a set of external measures. You start scanning the world and asking, am I doing this right? Do I measure up? And all these little voices that begin, circulating in our heads. This is where the language comes in, that the language that doesn't just, describe reality, it begins to define us. As children, the words spoken to us become part of how we see ourselves. You're so smart. You're shy. You're stubborn. Oh, you're such a great helper. These labels, they seem harmless at the time, but they're actually very powerful. I remember a time when, in my home, there was a lot of fighting, and my grandparents would come over and try to, disrupt my parents from fighting, try to diffuse the situation. And at a very young age, my grandmother taught me how to dial the phone and call her when there was a problem so she could come over and fix it. And, this sort of message for me meant that, I was the fixer. I was the, in that sense, kind of parentification began, right? Because I was the one who was supposed to take care and help solve the problem. And these are messages that really, they stay with us. You begin to identify with them, whether they're true or not. They become the raw material that your ego is built from. It's a set of stories that you tell yourself about who you are. Like, I was the fixer, I was the one to take care of everybody. And then you begin to, behave in that manner. And oftentimes it even like lets you know what you're capable or not capable of, which is where limiting beliefs always come in. So, because it's the ego's job to keep your identity consistent, because you want to know who you are in this world, it starts filtering your attention. You pay attention to what confirms those labels, and then you begin to ignore what challenges them. And then over time, this is not just your attention that's been redirected, it really becomes your sense of self and part of your identity. And these are the things that we want to start bringing into our awareness and begin to really unlearn. When your attention is pulled outward toward approval, toward comparisons, towards fear, we lose touch with our authentic self, and we begin to lose our power because we're no longer centered and in control of who we really are. So reclaiming your attention is the first act of freedom, because you can notice where your focus is going. You can choose to bring it back, and with that choice comes the ability to really start to rewrite the story that you've been living. You become the narrator of your story because you're functioning in that sense of awareness and you have total control over your attention. First exercise I want to suggest you do is to write down 3 words, phrases, labels that you might have heard growing up. And take some time to kind of meditate on this and think about who said them to you. And more importantly, how did they make you feel in that moment? And are these words that still reverberate with you today in your consciousness? Are these words you use with yourself in your self-dialogue on a daily basis? And in those moments, how does it make you feel? And think about whether or not these are words or things that relate to your identity that maybe just no longer serve you and take you out of your power. The second exercise that I want to suggest is throughout the day, I want you to notice what you're giving your attention to, where your attention is. Is it inward, or is it connected to your thoughts and feelings, or is it outward? Are you looking for cues? Are you looking for approval? Are there comparisons? Are you looking out for things to be wrong or negative in your day? Are you in the present moment, or are you looking for things that's going to reinforce this limiting dialogue, this story that you already have going with yourself? And just begin to pay attention to that. It sounds simple, but you'd be really surprised once you bring this into your awareness how powerful it can be. And then the third is, whenever you notice your attention drifting outward, I want you to automatically pause. And I want you to begin to take a deep breath, and I want you to really fill those lungs with air. And I want you to feel that movement of the air and the breath throughout your body. Feel your feet and really ground in. And the reason why you want to do this is your attention anchor. Your breath is the one magical, beautiful thing that ties you into the present moment. So I really want you to take a time out and focus on that breath in the moments where you really just kind of feel those thoughts spinning and it's taking you away from the present moment, and your attention is going to things that are, from the past, maybe hypotheticals that haven't happened yet, or things that are just overall feeling uncomfortable in your body. I want you to practice that deep breathing.